We got Mr. Ballen on this Tuesday, bro. Tuesday or Wednesday. Whenever y'all might get this video. I'm doing 3, 4 videos, so y'all might get 2 today, 3 today, or you know what I'm saying, 2 tomorrow on the Wednesday, or you know what I'm saying, crash out day. Um, my homie, like I had 2 people. I said it, I had like parts to do. You feel me? Watching my homie had texted me like, "Shit, bro, you reacted to, cause he everybody fuck with Mr. Ball. That be the crazy part. Like, then now all my subscribers fuck with Mr. Ball. So he was like, bro, you reacted to the last 3 stories, and plus I heard the intro what Mr. Baller just said that, you know what I'm saying, they all been remastering and all that. So he was like, shit, the first 3 stories you ain't never reacted to before. You feel me? So I said, let me see what we talking about. Y'all know if I already heard it, you know, y'all know I'm gonna skip it. Or you feel me? Let's go ahead and get into it though, man. Y'all make sure y'all give it your thumbs up too.
Or Delaware. He had just come back from visiting his grandmother, and now he was feeling really sick. Inside of his apartment, it was blazing hot, but that was by design. That's how he kept the temperature. Ronald took off his coat and threw it over one of the many handmade wooden cages that were strewn about his living room. Then he dragged himself over to his house phone, picked it up, and he called the auto dealership where he worked. When the office manager answered, Ronald told her that he would not be able to come into work the following day because he was feeling so unwell. He hung up the phone and then leaned on the counter for a second, feeling lightheaded. Then suddenly, from behind him, he heard a hiss. Right away, Ronald turned around and walked over to his fridge, and instinctively, he reached out his right hand to open the door. But as soon as he grabbed the handle and squeezed, he felt a shot of pain in his right hand.
The fuck?
He had forgotten that his right hand was all bandaged up because it was injured. So grimacing, Ronald reached out with his left hand, and he opened up the fridge that way. Then, after shutting the fridge, he walked over to the kitchen counter and he reached into a jar and he pulled out a whole fistful of live cockroaches. They were about 2 inches long each, and they wriggled around inside of his hand. He threw the cockroaches onto the ground and then watched as they scattered. Now that Ronald's chores were finished, he decided he would just go lay down, because again, he's feeling horrible. But as he walked across the kitchen towards his bedroom,
did this nigga say he got live cockroaches in the refrigerator, cuz? What the fuck? Man, look. What? Yeah. Y'all just lost. I'd be.
that dizziness he was feeling earlier came back. And suddenly it was like the whole world was spinning around him and he could barely stay on his feet. He kept trying to walk towards his bedroom, but he just couldn't do it. And eventually he stumbled and began to fall. Ronald lurched sideways and blindly stumbled to the right, trying to catch himself. And the first thing he touched with his outstretched arm was the door to his apartment. And so he grabbed it and he tried to stay on his feet, but he couldn't. And so he turned his body around and pressed his back up against the door to steady himself. But he was just so woozy and weak that eventually he just kind of slouched down to the ground, back against the door, feet out in front of him. Slowly, he let his eyes close. As Ronald passed out, all he could hear were the sounds of roaches scurrying and chicken bones crunching. 3 days later, Ronald's neighbor heard the crackle of police walkie-talkies out in the hallway. He opened his door and he saw 2 police officers and the superintendent of their building standing in front of Ronald's door. So this neighbor liked Ronald and knew him to be a nice, quiet guy, and so he couldn't imagine why police would be at his door. But then he thought about it, and he actually hadn't seen Ronald in several days. The neighbor watched as the police officers knocked on Ronald's door, waiting for Ronald to come out, but the door never opened. And after a few minutes of knocking, the police finally stepped back from the door and gestured for the superintendent to step forward and use his key to open the door. Then after the superintendent had done that, the neighbor watched as the police officers tried to open the door, but couldn't. It was like there was something really heavy blocking the door from opening. Finally, both police officers leaned hard enough on the door that they got it to open up just a little bit. The neighbor watched as the officers stuck their heads into the apartment and then jumped back with their hands on their guns. Then one of the cops grabbed the radio and began frantically talking into it. And then the neighbor watched as the officers and the superintendent quickly walked down the hallway out of sight, leaving Ronald's apartment door partially open. And as the neighbor heard the sound of sirens wailing outside, he took a cautious step into the hallway and realized he could actually see into Ronald's apartment through the open door. What he saw inside of there was so horrifying that for a second the neighbor just froze. And then a second later, he backed into his own apartment and slammed the door behind him. Hours later, this neighbor could not get the image of what he had seen in Ronald's apartment out of his head. So he grabbed a piece of paper and just began sketching the bizarre scene. It would turn out Ronald had a secret. And on the evening of January 13th, 2002, right after Ronald had called in sick to his work, that secret killed him. Here is the picture that the neighbor drew of what he saw inside of Ronald's apartment.
Nigga, is them
On the floor
iguanas?
is Ronald's dead
A
body.
dragon?
His face,
Lizards?
his ears, his hands, and his internal organs had all been eaten. And surrounding Ronald were the giant monitor lizards that he was secretly keeping as pets. He had 7 of them, which he fed roaches and raw chicken, and allowed to just free roam his apartment. They ranged in size from 2 feet to 6 feet long. These are massive lizards. And unfortunately for Ronald, not only...
Cause I don't fuck with lizards, eagles, niggas. I don't fuck with none of them. I don't fuck with none of them. Damn boy, hell no. But no, I don't fuck with nothing that's fast as a pet. Can't do it. I remember one time before a motherfucker had a lizard. Motherfucker, big ass iguana lizard. I can't be no longer than 8. Man, I like to hit that motherfucker with a golf. Not a golf. A tennis racket. Okay, I was a bad motherfucker when I was little, bro. Not gonna lie, them bitches scared me so bad, cuz. I think them scared me more than snakes. I ain't gonna lie. They scared me. They both reptiles. They scared me both more than snakes, cuz I ain't gonna lie to you.
Are monitor lizards carnivores, but also their mouths are filled with deadly bacteria.
Definitely.
The reason Ronald's hand was bandaged up, his right hand, is because one of his lizards, a week prior to his death, had bit his hand.
I ain't gonna lie.
The bacteria had given him this horrible
That's
staph
cold.
infection. And it was that staph infection, a week later, that very likely
I
caused
ain't
him
gonna lie.
to
My animal bite me, I'm killing that motherfucker.
And after that, he was eaten by the lizards. Now, it's assumed he died from the staph infection and then was consumed. However, the autopsy couldn't prove that, and so it is possible he may have been still alive when they began to eat him. After Robert's death, his lizards were taken from his apartment and placed in the Catoctin Wildlife Preserve and Zoo in Thurmont, Maryland.
Hell nah. Your own animals can do that to you. It's crazy. Fuck at this.
Just wanted to do his job and then be left alone. At GCHQ, nobody cared he felt that way. But at MI6, this behavior made him an outsider. Before he left MI6, he took his annual 2-week vacation. But when the vacation was over, he didn't come back to work at his office in London. And for some reason, MI6 never checked in on him to see where he was. It wasn't until his sister called police after not hearing from him that anybody looked into his disappearance.
That's crazy.
On August 23rd, a uniformed officer went to Garrett's apartment in London to do a welfare check. After knocking on the door and not getting an answer from Garrett, the officer got the key to the apartment from the landlord and went inside. Yelled out for Garrett. There was no sign of him on the first floor. He went upstairs to see if maybe Garrett was up there. He's yelling for him the whole way as he's going up. He gets to the second floor. There's nobody up there, but there's a closed door. And what he finds on the other side of that closed door would make international headlines for weeks. When he opened the door, he walked into a bathroom. There was nothing unusual about the bathroom, except in the bathtub, there was this big red duffel bag. And inside of that duffel bag was the badly decomposed body of Gareth Williams. The zipper of the bag was padlocked shut on the outside, and the key to this padlock was underneath Gareth's body inside of the bag.
What the
There were
fuck?
no fingerprints on the rim or inside
Oh,
the
that I did.
bathtub. There were also
I
no
did.
fingerprints on the bag itself, or on the 2 zippers, or on the padlock, or on the key.
If I did the video, I don't remember.
Found nearby, sitting on a table, and it had been factory reset. And later, investigators would determine it had been reset on August 15th, which was the last day Gareth was seen on CCTV footage, and it was also the day that they believe he died. According to the coroner, Gareth's body had
Yeah, I
no
ain't seen this
injuries on it.
video.
There was no sign of a struggle, and his toxicology report showed that he had no drugs or alcohol in his system. The thermostat inside of Gareth's apartment was jacked way up, so it was very hot inside of his apartment, despite the fact it was summer and it was the height of the summer in August. But regardless, the excessive heat in his apartment sped up the decomposition process and made it impossible to precisely determine a cause of death. Despite a lengthy investigation by police, there was never a conclusive determination as to what exactly happened to Gareth, although there are many theories. Some say the Russian mafia killed him because right before he died, he had been focusing on money laundering in Britain that was tied to the Russian mafia, which would have made him a target. Another theory is MI6 had something to do with Gareth's death, which is why they were not so eager to go looking for him when he didn't come back from his vacation. In fact, one former MI6 agent has come out and said he believes there was a cover-up. He was interviewed by CNN and said that it looked like MI6 had gone into Gareth's apartment ahead of the police and wiped it all down, removing fingerprints and DNA evidence. The last prominent theory is that Gareth did this to himself. It was discovered that he made occasional online visits to bondage sites, and at least one time he had to yell out to his landlord to help get him out of his bed because he had tied his wrist to the bed frame and couldn't get himself undone. But when two experts who were a part of the investigation attempted to put themselves inside of a similar sized duffel bag and lock it with the padlock on the outside, they couldn't do it despite trying over 400 times. And even if Gareth could have somehow physically got himself inside of this bag and locked it from the outside, how could he have done that without leaving fingerprints all over the bag, all over the lock, the zippers, all over the tub? Because when he was found, he didn't have gloves on. Ultimately, despite the red flags, Gareth's death was determined to be probably an accident and was closed 3 years after his death.
Oh, hell no. Hey, something deep going on right now, cuz I ain't gonna lie. I think that's it. He said it's it right here. The weird world.
Growing up, Pauline Dakin always suspected that there was just something off about her family.
Hey man, make sure y'all go check out my videos, my Mr. Ballen videos, man. My playlist, I got a Mr. Ballen playlist. They got all future. If y'all love Mr. Ballen, love me, reacting to Mr. Ballen, make sure y'all go check out my playlist. I will be making either a chilling scares or a nighttime. I already got a disturbing playlist, but I will be making a playlist and I'll post the playlist, you know what I'm saying, what I done did. That being said, see when I see y'all got probably 2 or 1 more video coming from me today. Let's go, man. See you when I see y'all niggas. Let's ride.